Hi, my name's Jordan Merck, and I'm doing my informative speech on equipping believers to do God's redemptive work in the world, based on my job as a youth pastor. So, right now I'm actually a youth pastor. I work at a church, and I get to work with the kids, obviously. And so, what we want to do as youth pastors is equip the kids that are in our church to be able to go out into the world and do God's work, specifically evangelism. And so, I remember growing up, I grew up in the church. I was a church kid, that's what they called me. But I grew up in a church that was pretty dead, and I wasn't really into the whole God thing. I was just kind of like doing whatever, you know, and I wasn't really feeling it. And I just grew up, and I went through junior high, and I went through high school, and religion and Christianity and all this stuff was it's just something I did. I went to church on Sundays, went to youth group on Sunday nights. It wasn't important to me, and I didn't really own my faith. And then as I grew up and went into college, I was focused on finding a job that would pay a lot of money, a job that would get me a nice house, the cool car that I wanted to have, and I was really just trying to fill myself up with like the different things that were in the world, and I wasn't really focused on like what's beyond this world, you know, what does God want for me in my life. And so I went off to college, and I was a runner, and I had all these dreams and these goals and aspirations, but God wasn't in them at all. And I was trying to do everything on my own. And so I got to this point in college where I was like, everything just kind of fell apart. Like everything in my life that I felt as comfortable, that was giving me happiness, it just kind of disappeared. It fell apart, you know. And at that point I realized like there's something more that I need in my life. And thanks to some of my best friends and a lot of people around me, I was really able to find that I feel like my calling is in ministry, and I was able to step in that direction and really start to own my own faith. And so as I've been a youth pastor, and as I've been able to go through this process of learning and growing and hanging out with kids and spending time with them, I've realized that as a church and as a pastor in a church, it's really our responsibility to equip the members and the kids that are in our church so that they can go out into the world and they don't get crushed by the things of this world, that they can be able to do God's work in this world, and specifically evangelism. And there's one specific Bible verse that I found that really kind of goes along with this, and it was really special to me when I decided to make that choice to own my faith. And that is it's 1 Corinthians 10:31 through 33, and it says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Do not cause anyone to stumble, whether Jews, Greeks, or the church of God. Even as I try to please everyone in every way, for I am not seeking my own good, but the good of many, so that they may be saved." And so, obviously, the church is incredibly important in evangelizing to the world and going out and telling the world about God. Like, we are the people that are called to do that. You know, we have the Great Commission in the Bible in Matthew, where it says, "Go out and make disciples of all nations." And so it's the church's job, it's my job as a pastor to help equip people to go out and be able to do that. And there's a couple different ways that I've experienced this, and I won't be able to hit all of them because there's so many ways, but there's a few really specific ways that I've seen us equip the people in our church. And the first one is biblically. And one problem that I've noticed as I grew up, and you can see in churches, is that churches like to just preach the Bible to people. They just like to say, here's the Bible, this is what it says, and that's about it, like, cool. But the thing is that we have to equip the people in our church to be able to take the Bible and say, all right, you need to go out, and this is how you can apply it to your life. Not, here's the Bible, you should know it. It's, how can you apply this to your life? And I think specifically of the book of Job. And we see, he's taught in church a lot. Like, we see this guy, Job, he goes through all these different trials in his life, you know, he's getting beat down, but he stands strong. And a lot of times we just learn, like, oh, cool, Job was an awesome guy, you know, he was really steadfast in his beliefs. But the thing is that we can take that a step further, and I can look at the students that we have in our ministry, and I can say, hey, here's Job, this guy who had all this stuff attack him in the world. Now it's your turn to go out in the world and understand that as a Christian, people are going to attack you. People are going to try and beat you down. But if you have faith in God, you can stand up to that. And then another way is helping people find their own their faith and own their faith spiritually. And it's kind of a weird way that this happens, but I feel like helping people own their faith and feel like the church that they go to isn't a church that they go to, it's their church, is a way that we can really build that in them. And so at our church, we're a mobile church. And so every single week we meet in a school, and so we have to set up a trailer, unpack the trailer, set everything up inside the school, and then tear it down at the end. And so one of our ways of really equipping people to say, like, this is my faith, this is my church, is by getting them involved. And so I think the last count that we had is at least probably more than half of our kids were involved in some way, whether it be a prayer team, a setup team, a teardown team in our church. And so really giving them responsibility really helps them to own their faith. And then once they own their faith and they feel like, this is a place I love going, this is a church I love going to, then they feel comfortable saying, all right, I want to bring my friends in because I just love this place. And so those are two of the ways that I feel like our church specifically is equipping people to be able to go out into the world and say, all right, I can be a Christian in a world that's going to attack me. And so I feel like it is our goal, and it is my goal as a pastor, as I continue to grow in what I'm doing, to continue in these two ways and in other ways to equip the people in our church so that they can go out and do God's redemptive work.